Welcome to Mad Marketing TV. My name is Jeff Ogden, the host of Mad Marketing TV, and I'm really excited about today's guest. Our guest today is going to talk about something I'm passionate about, which is differentiating your content, emerging from the masses. So, Doug Kessler is one of the founders of Velocity Partners in the UK. The title of Doug's episode today is Leaping Out of the Content Ocean, and I think that's such an apt description. He is with Velocity Partners. He is the co-founder and creative director, of the agency, a content marketing agency based in London, but he's actually an American. And let's welcome Doug to the show today.
Thanks, Jeff.
Glad to have you here, Doug, and I'm really excited. I've been a big fan of the content your company creates, and that's why I'm really excited to have you here today. Let's dive into this topic, Doug. Why is it important to create content that stands out from the crowd?
It's a good question. The key now is, I think about a year ago, 2 years ago, just doing content marketing was a big deal. You know, the idea that you'd send something to a prospect or attract them to a piece of content that was not overtly promotional, was there to help them do their job. That in itself was differentiating and stood out. So a couple of years ago, we were evangelizing this idea of content marketing, just getting people to do it. You know, we were doing stuff like the content marketing workbook that we did, just to tell people, you know, this is the way to do things. It's definitely gone mainstream now. So, you know, as far as crossing the chasm, there's absolutely no doubt that just about everybody's onto this content marketing thing. And some are doing it very, very well. So where, you know, a year ago, just doing an ebook, big deal, now everyone's doing them. You really have to make stuff that jumps out of the pack and is worth coming to get, worth reading, and also starts to build your content brand. So, you know, we're all busy building our business brands, but there's also a content brand to be built, which is to be known to be someone that does engaging, fun, thoughtful, useful content. And you know, that's the bar now, and it's getting higher all the time. The key thing there is that it isn't just jumping out for the sake of jumping out. So, you know, if we take a look at the first slide, it's an equation that, you know, I've used for most of my career, but is more and more relevant, which is this equation of relevant times distinctive equals effective. So for me, the key in this equation, simple as it is the multiplication sign. You know, if that means that if the value of either of those two things is 0, effectiveness is also 0. So you can have something that's hugely relevant that everybody would care about, but it's told in such a bland and boring way, you basically have never moved the needle at all. If they're distinctive is 0. Or you could go the other way and have something incredibly distinctive. We used to call this at Ogilvy the gorilla in the jockstrap. You know, anyone can get attention, but if it's not relevant, so if your relevant score is 0, all of that attention you got was for nothing either. So it is important when we talk about differentiating that we realize it's in the purpose of some relevant communication. There are a lot of people out there who do things just for attention, and not really what we're talking about. We're talking about earning an attention that does reward the attention and deserves it.
I think that's a great topic, and you know, with just I see so many websites that just have a resource page with ebooks and white papers, and usually of mediocre quality, and it's just such a challenge. But the question I have for you, it just seems like we're searching for the Holy Grail. You know, it's this thing that doesn't really exist, or we want to make a viral YouTube video. It's easy to say, but it's really hard to do. So how do you differentiate your content, Doug?
Really good question. So as far as the how to differentiate, we've created a mind map to kind of put together in one screen 8 different ways to do that. So if we take a look at that and kind of walk around it, you know, any of the things around the center here are important dimensions along which you can differentiate your content. You can do it along any one or all of them. But if we walk through, you'll get a sense of what I mean. At 12 o'clock is the most important of them all, really. At the top is ideas. So having a point of view, having some original thought, having something to say is actually by far the most important way to differentiate, because still most content marketing actually falls down there. It does not actually have that. So people, especially now when people are in kind of content factory mode, they get a topic and they start typing before they really even say, wait, what can I add to the story here? What's new? What can I say that means something? So having an idea has got to be the first way, a really strong idea. Moving to the next one, the attitude with which you tell that story is a huge differentiator. And this is one that's completely undervalued, really. For me, the biggest idea here is confidence, that if you can tell a story with confidence, it's a very attractive quality. I think we see that in all media. You sit down and start a movie from a great director. From the first moments, from the credits, that you're actually in the hands of a confident artist. And so you give yourself to that artist and you go with the ride and you enjoy it. So having the confidence of messaging, I think, is really, really important. And maybe a little bit of controversy too. So attitude can have some ruffling of feathers, shake some feathers, that's shaking things up is an attractive thing and differentiating, probably because people try to be very, very diplomatic and middle of the road, offend nobody. So there's some differentiation in attitude alone. The next one is about media. So you can differentiate just by whether you're using a new medium. So we like to play with stuff. I really like Prezi. There's a new thing out there called plop.it, plop it, which is just, I think, maybe in beta now. But just the idea that you're trying a new medium can make you stand out, or it could be a surprising medium for the thing you're doing. So if you're about to do it as an ebook, well, what about as an animated video or something like that? So that's another way to do it, what media you use. The next is style, really, just having a style. I guess this is part of attitude, but it's a little bit different because you can have a certain attitude and take different styles with it. So is this very direct, very plain speaking? I think at Velocity we vary our style quite a bit. There is a bit of house style in the middle, which is just very plain and direct and person to person. That's a really quick potted kind of summary of the ways that we think about differentiation.
Great mind map, Doug, and you've got some great ways of thinking about it, which I think organizing the thoughts of the marketers who watch the show is a great idea. So one of the things we always talk about on a show is the takeaway from the show, advice that marketers could embrace. So if you had to just summarize about some really key advice for marketers, what would you say to them?
One overarching one would be a bit of passion in what you do. And so you're evaluating the 15 things you could do next. And we all have a really long list. And you have to think, we have a lot of different criteria for picking which is it going to be. But one of the criteria is always it's fun. It's something we really want to do. So we may not do something for that reason alone, but if it ticks, let's 3 of our 8 boxes plus the fun box, it's going to go to the top of the list. And I think that's important. I think that really, really enjoying what you do makes a big difference. We did something called the B2B Marketing Manifesto, which was a bit of a rant and a tirade about old style marketing and new style marketing. We published it out here in an actual book too. But in that one, we just were having fun from the day one, and we had fun in the design. The guys did these stencil things where they cut out and colored and spray painted some of the illustrations in there. And the whole thing was really done in the spirit of fun. I think that really came through, and we were getting great engagement on that basis. So an overall takeaway is pursue the fun, because what's fun is probably going to be better. A few other principles I put on a slide as well, which are just some 4 very, very simple things to think about when you think about how to differentiate. So the 4 principles, first, be aware. So it really does pay to audit what's out there. I think a lot of people rush out of the gate with their first idea, and they'll find later that it was a lot of other people's first idea, that you're really throwing something right into a very, very crowded space. 5 ways that social media can do blah, blah, blah for you. There's a hell of a lot out there. So being aware of what's out there, where the gaps of content are, is a good thing. Be fast. For us, process can really kill any kind of originality or fun. So if it's over-processed, we find it tends toward the middle. So every new input and every delay tends to move something more towards the middle of the road, whereas the first impulses can be very, edgy. And so for us, being really fast is great. So if we say, let's do an ebook, let's have it out by Friday, it's going to probably be a better ebook than one where we think, it'll take us 3 months. Not always the case, but a good rule of thumb for us. The next, be compelling. It still really is a verbal medium. It's a medium of words, whether it's video or ebooks or web pages, anything. It comes down to the words and the story. And for us, finding and feeding the best copywriters you can possibly find is essential. For us, great copywriting is the differentiator, and pay whatever you have to pay to get it. Take the time to look for great copywriters, not just good ones. That alone will make a huge difference. And the last principle for us is be contrary, not so much in the sense of be contrary, being negative about things. It means invert the expected. In other words, just when you think you've got the answer to what you're going to do, what would the opposite look like? So if you say, here's my idea, I'm about to do an ebook, say not an ebook. Okay, anything but an ebook. Now what will it be? Would it work as an infographic? Would it work as a Prezi or some kind of animated video? So almost any you can say about the piece you're about to do, what would happen if it was the opposite? And that's kind of this inversion technique that we sometimes use to help us differentiate and say, okay, it's a target C-level executives, and say, well, what would happen if we took the same story and we actually targeted frontline practitioners? How would it change? What would be different? So that inversion technique we think can be really quite useful. So for us, these are the 4 big ones, and with kind of passion and fun overarching all that help us make content that stands out a bit.
Great principles, Doug. For people who want to learn more about Velocity Partners and what your company does, how would they learn about you?
Thanks for that. They can come to velocitypartners.co.uk. There are some other velocities out there, and so we didn't get a unique URL when we started out a long time ago. Some people go to a Velocity or some of the other ones, and it's not us. We're velocitypartners.co.uk, so we're the London guys.
Great. Thank you. It's been great having you on the show. Next week on the show, we have Mark Schaefer of Grow Your Business. He's going to be a great guest, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.